What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and after my last video, I've been receiving some very negative comments about my list. So what I'm going to do today is explain again, because apparently it was too difficult to watch the video and listen to my reasoning behind the list. I'm going to blend in the betting perspective of the list, because you need to remember why why people pay me money, literally pay me money for my opinion on these things. One thing that I love about international competitions and sports betting in general is that it's a great reminder that a majority of people who watch sports, League of Legends, anything that you can basically bet on, most people are losers. They are actually losers. I don't mean that in a negative way, like, oh, you're a loser, you don't have any friends. I mean it in the sense where if you ask that person to consistently make bets or to try to make money using their knowledge about a given sport, they would lose money. And they lose money. And there's a reason they lose money. The reason they lose money is because of the hive mind mentality and flawed perspectives. And I know that I'll probably get more negative comments for that. But you need to ask yourself, why do you think sportsbooks make money? And the answer is because most people don't know what they're looking at when they watch a League of Legends match. They just don't understand what's happening in the game, and they just don't understand. So one of the comments, I'm not going to go through every comment or something like that, but one thing that speaks to this is someone was asking me, why are you comparing talent instead of how the teams interact with one another? We have teams from different regions that if they were transplanted into other regions would be probably the best team, if not one of the top teams, and hyper competitive. The fact that you're getting a team like Hanwha Life in 4th place in Korea, if you took them and put them into Europe, where do you honestly think they're going to end up? And a lot of people apparently think that they would be 4th, 5th best. The reason why you think that is because a lot of their performances against the top teams are bad. Well, guess what? It's difficult playing against better competition. And some people will want to say that LEC is better than LCK. If you genuinely believe that, then I would happily bet money against you in basically anything. And I know that there are probably good sports bettors out there who disagree with me and have good reasons for doing so. And if I respect their opinion more generally, then obviously I'd walk back that take a little bit. Like, if somebody else from the esports department said, hey, Pikel, I think the LEC is better for this reason, and this reason, I'm willing to have that conversation. But to think that the LEC is more competitive or just a better region overall is a joke. I think I said that right. So let's take a look at some of the odds that are being posted, because the reason why you're supposed to make something like a tier list or have opinions about different teams before a tournament starts and before you know what the matchups are going to be is because that gives you priors. That allows you to say to yourself, when I made my list originally, this is the order that I thought the teams were going to be in. So if, according to my tier list, I have an underdog in tier A and they're playing against a team in tier C, then that's a good bet most likely. And that's something that I should seriously consider spending my hard-earned money on. That is why you make things like tier lists. And the reason why it's based on something like talent and not like their record or recent form or how they interact with one another as a team is because talent is something that's much more difficult to identify and, in my opinion, is much stickier. You can have a team with a lot of talent go from one meta to the next meta and completely suck because they don't fit that meta. But every year at Worlds, we see teams that outperform, and a lot of the time it has to do with the meta. Last year, I was all over Suning. They went to the finals. You know why I was all over them? Because I was able to identify the talent within their team, their playstyle, and anticipate how they would potentially fit into the meta. And that line of reasoning doesn't necessarily have to be 100% true in order for you to make money off of it, but that's how I got to the position that I wanted to be overweight on Suning to the field. And also for anybody else who needs some other kind of justification for why you might want to listen to how not listen as in like blindly follow, but consider my perspective, because last year I made tens of thousands of dollars doing this. So I don't really know any other reason outside of that that's going to be convincing. And if none of that is convincing to you, then vaya con Dios, muchachos. So I have dragging stuff all over my screen. I have some initial numbers from somebody in Discord from bet365. I have bet365, but I guess they're not releasing the numbers in New Jersey. So let's start at the bottom of the list. Right. So at the bottom of the list, we have Peace. I have Peace in the D tier. Detonation Focus Me. Okay, Peace is 1,001. In decimal odds, I think that means that they are 100,000 plus 100,000. Detonation Focus Me is plus 50,000. Infinity, and they're also in the D tier. Infinity Esports is plus 50,000 again. They're in the D tier. Red Cannons is plus 25,000. Galatasaray plus 25,000. Unicorns of Love plus 25,000. Beyond Gaming plus 10,000. So all of those teams are in the D tier. Now, I'm not saying that every team in the D tier is going to go winless at Worlds. That's obviously not going to happen. The important thing to take away from that is that teams that we see from minor regions that don't get as much publicity, don't have as much money bet on them generally, are going to be offered at higher odds, because the sportsbook understands that most of the money coming in at this championship is going to be on the 4 major regions, because that's who people like and that's who people want to bet on. Most people who bet on sports do it because they like a team. They like a team and they want to have money invested in that team, because if they do well, not only are they going to feel good because their team played well, they also get to make money. And that's ultimately a lot of fun. Wait, am I doing this right? DFM Infinity is 5,100. Red is 25100. Galatasaray 25100. Unicorns of Love. And like some of these odds were from a different website. I'm just kind of putting them in because they're relatively close. Beyond Gaming. So obviously, you know, in general, people have a higher opinion of this region than other regions, which is fine. But for the most part, you have all these minor regions, all the minor region teams are being offered at higher odds because the sportsbook doesn't anticipate getting much money on them. And once they get a certain amount of money, they're probably just going to take it off the board because they don't want to deal with gigantic liabilities from these teams, which is reasonable. Because that's ultimately what the sportsbook is trying to do, is they're trying to make, like, I think, between 5 to 7% on the total amount that's bet in the worst case scenario. In the best case scenario, they could make much more money than that. So then moving on, we have C9. So C9 is in my C tier. Team Liquid is in my C tier. Offered at 5,100. 100 Thieves I have in my B tier that are 5,100. Hanwha Life 41,000, not 4,100. No, 4,100. Yeah, 4,100. So I got to add that one. I could also do that, just in case we get too many teams with like very different odds. So in that scenario, Hanwha Life is rated higher than all 3 North American teams. Do I think that is correct? Yes. Do I think that it's a good enough bet to make based off of the 2% chance they have of winning Worlds? Would I be willing to bet $100 to make $4,000? I could be close to that. And it depends on how much money you're going to bet overall. Like if I have $100 total that I'm willing to bet on futures, maybe you put down $10 on Hanwha Life, because with the 2% chance that they actually win, I mean, that's pretty good. That part of your portfolio would be worth $400. So That's fine. PSG is at 2,600. So people are already betting PSG pretty aggressively, I'm assuming. Which isn't... It's not something that I'm completely against. I have PSG in my C tier. So according to the sportsbook, they would have PSG higher than Fnatic. Maybe not Fnatic. They would have PSG higher than all three teams from the LCS and Hanwha Life. Anybody who's out there, when PSG plays against Hanwha Life, if PSG is the favorite, which they may not be at that point in the tournament, if those two teams play against one another, I will be betting Hanwha Life. And that's how you use something like a tier list. You say, okay, the team that I think is just as talented or more talented is being offered at plus odds against a team that I have a lower opinion of. That's how you identify value. That's how you make bets. Like, that's how you do it. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. That's how I see things. If you see things differently, go ahead and bet on it. When you have Mad Lions playing against PSG, Hanwha Life, whoever, if you think that they are the better team, go ahead, bet on it. Let's see how much money you can make over a year. I invite everyone watching this to do that. Obviously, don't risk money that's going to hurt you, but get some money on it, and then come talk to me. Rogue, 2,100. So they're probably being bet down as well. LNG, 2,400. LNG is at 2,100, so less money. I mean, this is another one where I would happily bet anybody that LNG against Fnatic in a best of 1 or a best of 3 or a best of 5. I'll take LNG every single day, not even close. LNG against Mad Lions, same thing. Like, that's just how you have to try to identify value and like go about this. Fnatic at 1,700. That's a joke. And that's it's popularity. Like, the popular teams, the people from Europe and, you know, the United States and the West and everywhere else, the teams with the biggest fan bases cannot be offered at their true odds because they will get pounded. The sportsbook will get pounded. They will get so much money. And at some point, there's an inflection point where the amount of risk that the sportsbook is willing to take justifies them moving the odds away from the true value of the pick. So they say, even though we don't believe that Fnatic is worth plus 1,700, which is them winning roughly 3% of the time, even though we think that's the case, we don't want to expose ourselves to the 3% chance that Fnatic actually wins. Because if Fnatic wins 3% of the time, then the sportsbook would lose money. It's all comes down to the numbers. A lot of people who are watching this probably just genuinely don't understand why these numbers come out. But, you know, for those of you who have been around here for longer, you probably understand, or at least if you don't, well, now you know. Gen G, 1,700. So this is a spot where everybody's upset that I think Gen G is a good team for some reason. Like, I'm not allowed to have my own opinion. They're 1,700. Anyone who is watching this, go to my Twitter. If Fnatic plays against Gen G and you want to bet me real life money, I will happily bet you. Go find me on Twitter, slide into my DMs, we'll figure something out. I will happily bet you because I know that the odds that I'm going to be right are in line with the value that I place on Gen G. So if you want to make that bet, let's do it. If that matchup happens at Worlds, Gen G against Fnatic, Gen G against Rogue, Gen G against Mad Lions, I will be on the Gen G side. This isn't some kind of like joke or like ploy where I want to trick people into what I think. What value do I get from that? All I'm doing is sharing my opinion, and people are losing their minds in the comments saying that like the list is garbage. It's like the list is only supposed to be representative of my honest feelings about this. So it's just like hilarious that people get so worked up about it. T1 is 1,300. So again, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, how could you say that T1 is not as good as Gen G?" It's like, people who have watched my videos for a long time know that I'm like legitimately a T1 fan. Like, I want T1 to win. If T1 beats Gen G, I'd be happy. If T1 wins Worlds, I'd be happy. Like, it's a free roll. It's an emotional free roll for me. I'm just trying to be... I'm trying to identify spots where I have edges. And at 1,300, I don't have an edge. T1 at plus 1,300, I don't think I'm going to win that bet enough to have value and justify betting it. Because they just feel like a team that should have longer odds. That's really what betting is. Like, it's just funny. It's kind of mind-blowing, honestly, at points. So for that reason, I think that Hanwha Life at plus 4,100 is a better bet than T1. It does not mean that I think Hanwha Life wins more often than T1, but when they win, I will have received better value for my money, taking the time value of money into consideration, trying to figure out what percentage of the time I think it actually happens, and maybe we live in a universe where Hanwha Life does win the World Championship. That's how you have to make bets. Next up, T1, Mad Lions. Mad Lions at 1,100. I will say this one time, and this is to everyone. If you bet Mad Lions at plus 1,100, you are making a bad bet, and you deserve to lose. There are lines out there that are better than plus 1,100 for Mad Lions. If you bet Mad Lions at plus 1,100, even if you win, you will have made a bad bet because you're not getting enough value. The chances of Mad Lions to win the World Championship is not like, what's 1,100? 8%. They do not have an 8% chance to win Worlds. They don't. And anyone who thinks that they do, you give me a statistical reason why it's 8%, why it should be 1,100. And if you think that it should be 1,100, then guess what? You have no value on your bet. So you'd have to say, actually, I think that Mad Lions wins 12% of the time. So I'm getting a 4% edge over the sportsbook. Good luck. Good luck with your 4% edge. You let me know how that goes for you. Let me guess. It's going to be bad. You're going to have a bad time. But again, a lot of the people commenting probably don't bet on anything. And they just like complaining because they see a tier list and they think, oh, this is just supposed to be which team is better than which team. And everybody's opinion should be the same. You're all foolish. People who think that are all foolish. Not all the people watching this video are foolish. So Mad Lions, 1,100. That's hilarious. Anybody who wants to bet me personally, if you want to book a bet at plus 1,100 with Mad Lions, I will happily take that bet. RNG. RNG is plus 900, which is not is better than some other sports books that I've seen. And honestly, I think that the sports books are trying to incentivize people to bet on RNG because RNG is an overrated team. I genuinely believe they're an overrated team from a talent perspective. They were in a good meta at MSI. As metas change, some teams just aren't meta resilient. They can't play multiple playstyles. And as we move into the world's meta, I think there are a lot of different kinds of metas that would expose some of RNG's weaknesses, not only from a talent perspective, but also from a drafting perspective, because RNG makes some very questionable decisions in drafts somewhat regularly, and it's pretty concerning. So at plus 900, I'm not betting that. Maybe sometime during the championship they lose a couple of matches and the number gets pushed up, and then maybe I would consider it, but I can't do 900. Next up is Damwon Gaming. Damwon Gaming at plus 450. So plus 450, you're looking again at like 4%, 4.5%, 5%, somewhere in that range. Do I think that Damwon wins that often? Wait, what? Yeah, 4.5 to 5%. They probably win more than that. That's not a horrible bet. Why is the number like that? I'm just looking at some of the percentages that I have on my wall. Like, because Worlds is like a month or 2 months long, I don't think that I could really justify putting money down on Damwon to win before the tournament starts. They're probably better off. I guess you kind of could. If Damwon makes it to Worlds, instead of having to bet them in the finals to hedge, or like in the semifinals to hedge, you could get down some money before the tournament even starts as a hedge. That could be interesting. But that's just generally not the kind of bet that I like to make. It's kind of very low. Damwon at plus 450. It just seems low. It just seems wrong. EDG plus 450, and then FPX is 300. So that's 22. Is that right? Plus 300 isn't that number. That number is just wrong. Or no, it's not. That's right. So they need to that's how often they need to actually hit for that to work. Oh, those are ownership percentages. Okay, I fucked that up. That's my bad. These numbers on the screen are accurate. The ones on my wall are for projected ownership for DraftKings based on their odds. So do I think that Damwon wins 21% of the time? No. Maybe. It's right around that number. So again, I don't think that there's value there. I'm not going to bet on it. That's really how it goes. So let's just get the list up again. So let's do this. All right, so obviously there's some region numbers in here. But let's take a look at my list compared to the sportsbook. So in my S tier, I have FPX, I have EDG. Let's do this. And I have Gen G. So relative to the sportsbook, Gen G looks like my best bet for teams out of the S tier because I think that their odds are being misrepresented by the line that's being offered. Then we have LNG, T1, and RNG. LNG. I think that's close enough to be in the right color. LNG, T1, RNG. Then we have Hanwha Life, Mad Lions, Rogue, and Fnatic. No. Mad, Rogue, Hanwha Life, and 100 Thieves. So again, this is saying that I like Mad Lions, or I like 100 Thieves more than the sportsbook does. Then we have PSG. I'll just do like that, I guess. No. Brown. Team Liquid. C9. And Fnatic. So I like Fnatic less than the sportsbook does. Or at least the odds that are being offered. Which is not surprising to me because everybody knows that I hate Fnatic. So again, 100 Thieves I think is being misvalued. So when 100 Thieves plays against, is it the wrong color? Hanwha Life. When 100 Thieves plays against Mad Lions or Rogue, I will bet on 100 Thieves because I think that these odds are just way out of flux. Like they should be closer to one another. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you take a look at what the sportsbook is offering and compare it to my tier list, it's really not that far off. There are like 3 teams that I have out of line with the sportsbook. So does that mean that the sportsbook doesn't know what they're talking about either, or that they completely suck, or that their list is garbage? Because if you think that the sportsbooks list is garbage, then you should go make money on the sportsbook, because obviously you know better. And, you know, I'm sure I'm going to get a comment like, oh, well, if you think you know better, why don't you make money on the sportsbook? Or why don't you make money on DraftKings or betting on League of Legends? Well, guess what? I already do. So what are we talking about here? I guess the last thing, it's already been 25 minutes. The only thing that I want people to take away from this video is that, one, the sportsbook's odds are not indicative of what they truly believe. Two, the public is stupid in general when it comes to betting on things, and, you know, probably just in general. And three, put your money where your mouth is. If you have big problems with my list or the sportsbook's odds that they're offering, then you should be able to identify value and go out and make money. And if you can do that, then good job. You made some money. But I doubt you're gonna do it. So, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.